All right, what is going on today? So, before I jump into what this video is going to be about, what this interview is about, let me please introduce myself. My name is Mark, and since I was a little kid, I've really struggled a lot with my mental health. And because of that, I started this YouTube channel and also a podcast to basically just talk about my journey with mental health and how I've kind of dealt with the struggles I've dealt with and how it's shaped me. But I also like to speak with other individuals that have gone through different struggles, and because of that, they've gained different perspectives. And I think it's important to share these types of things and hear about how these people have shaped their lives. So without further ado, let's jump into this interview. I spoke with Alex Gerling, and he's a really cool guy. We met back in college, but I kind of do an introduction in this video, so we'll jump right into it. If you're brand new to this, you're gonna hear a lot about, not just mental health, but how to kind of carve your life into the direction that you want it to go in. So if you're brand new, please check this out. Feel free to subscribe, feel free to follow along on this journey. And if you're not new to this, then thank you so much for participating and also just following along with the notion that no matter what someone is dealing with, they are not alone. And that means you as well. You're not alone with whatever you're dealing with. You're loved and you're welcome with this community. So let's jump into this conversation and hear what Alex and I got to speak about, because I know you guys are going to enjoy it just as much as I did. Bang, we are recording, and I just pulled my headphone out of my ear. But today I am chatting with Alex Gerling. So Alex and I have been friends since Douglas College, the college that we went to right out of high school. We met in the first year, and you kind of got to grow a lot from where I've seen in the beginning. But why don't you kind of just jump in and tell people what you're doing now and what you've kind of been up to the last couple of years, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, so like Mark said, I met him when we were 17 during Frosh at Douglas College, and we started hanging out quite a bit. And I went from Douglas, transferred to SFU, and got a geoscience degree. And while I was doing that, I did a lot of public speaking for mental health initiatives, which we'll talk about how I got in that today. And once I graduated, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So me and my girlfriend, now fiance, took off for 14 months, went to Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia, and decided on the trip that geoscience and geology was not what I wanted to do. So came home, and I'm currently pivoting into real estate development. And currently I'm interning at the University of British Columbia Properties Trust, which is a company that develops all their institutional and market buildings. And I'm doing a diploma of urban land economics, also at UBC. So that's what I'm up to now. And me and Mark have recently reconnected after I got home from my trip, and noticed we both have a lot more in common than we thought. So here I am.
Yeah. So we were kind of just talking. I think I've been able to form this idea a little bit better now in my head, but we were talking about like an employer seeing an employee that they have maybe, or an interviewer or whatever it is, with a checkered past or a checkered history, but having them on an internship like what you're doing right now is a cool concept to do, because it kind of screens past the history. And it allows you to see like the character they are today, right? It allows you to see how they accept wins, but also how they learn from failures as well. Like it kind of lets them see your character. You think that that's kind of like advantageous for people as opposed to like the traditional, like just job interview, hire or not hire?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, especially for someone that comes like with my background without having the skills that everyone else has in terms of education and experience. Like I have no construction experience, so I think, any kind of internship like that is a great idea, just to kind of vet someone. Because you want to see, it doesn't really necessarily matter how much they know, but how much they're willing to learn and how much they're willing to progress and, ask to keep doing stuff, show initiative, that kind of thing. And
Nice. And so what made you interested in like jumping into this job that you're doing right now?
Well, I always found it really cool that with mining, that you could get a plot of land and add value to it. So in mining, you dig down. So you'd have a piece of land that basically is worthless. But if you can figure out, okay, there's something down here worth something, then that land becomes valuable. And I didn't want to do geology or geoscience because a lot of it involves being away from home. And that's just not the life that me and my fiance wanted to live. And plus I just figured out I was just more interested in more economic kind of day-to-day negotiation kind of stuff. And another way of adding value to land is to build things on it. You're just building up instead of down. So I thought it was a good idea. So I started cold calling guys in the industry, just kind of chatting about what it's like, what the pros and cons are, and decided I'll take a shot at it. So yeah, that's basically what I did, and I'm loving it so far. I think it's great. Fitting in
That's really
perfectly.
interesting, man. That's really interesting that you say you just like randomly started cold calling people in the industry. A lot of people, like even myself, I would probably like jump on YouTube, I'd jump on Google, but to have the notion or the thought of like just to start cold calling people in the industry, I like
Yeah,
that, man.
that's just kind of how I am. If I want to do something, I want to hear from people that are in the industry. I'm not phoning them asking for a job, so it's not necessarily scary because people love to talk about what they love, and these people love to do it. And especially if they've done it their whole career and they're in a high up executive position, like it's great to talk about where they started. And a lot of people don't get to talk about that because people just care about who they are now, not where they started, right? So it was a fun time for both parties, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you have anybody that was, because like I feel like if you ask a lot of people that have been doing a certain career for a long period of time, there's something like subconscious in the sense that they don't want to regret it or they don't want to feel like they regret it. So they may just talk about like a lot of the positives or the things
Mm.
that they're proud of, like maybe accomplishments or accolades. Did you have anybody that kind of forewarned you about any stressors or any
Oh,
failures that they had?
yeah, a couple people. Typically, when I just meet someone for coffee, like you say, yeah, you wouldn't hear about that. You only hear the positives,
Mm,
right? But I've got to know a couple guys who've been very successful and go out for drinks or whatever, pass the coffee, out for dinner. Even my fiance Emily, we went out with one guy for dinner, and yeah, a couple of the things that they've told me that just you got to keep an eye on is just make sure you have a healthy work-life balance. Like obviously you're going to work a lot in this industry. People
mm.
typically put in 50, 60 hours. It's pretty normal. You got to make sure that you have that balance or else you'll burn out pretty quick. And another thing I was warned about was traveling a lot, just how hard that is on marriages, especially if you have a kid too. That was one
Mm.
big regret. A guy who's very successful and old now, and his wife's passed away, and his biggest regret was that he was gone all the time, making deals all over the world. So
I feel like that could happen though, like even with like a 40-hour work week. I feel like
yeah,
there's so many people that just like they're just kind of stuck in their day-to-day lives and they're not really present with their family members. It's kind of
yeah,
crazy how that happens.
we have to force yourself to prioritize what you want to prioritize. If you want to
Yeah.
come home and have a beer and watch TV, like that's all you're going to do. So you have to make plans. I always find it good to just refresh. I call it refresh once a week. So like, well, me and Emily will do something that we haven't done before. So we will, because of COVID, we can't really go out as much, but typically we go to like a new restaurant or go for a new walk somewhere, that kind of thing.
That's
Just
sweet,
keep
man.
keep things new, keep things interesting. Don't get into that pattern of just being comfortable, because that's when things start to fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long have you guys been together now, if you don't mind me asking?
Over 3 years.
That's
Yeah, I met
sweet.
her in 2017 at a party, and then we went traveling for 14 months. So it feels like much longer because we were together basically every day. I think only one day she went to a concert and I didn't go, but other than that, we were together all day, every day.
That's crazy, man. I feel like, yeah. I think if you're like traveling with someone for 14 months, I feel like that's like an equivalent of like hanging out with them
Oh
probably
yeah,
for like 3 years because you don't see
yeah,
them very often when you're just like chilling randomly, right?
yeah. And you get to see the real side because when you're dating someone, you don't live with them. If you're seeing them 3 times a week, right? They might just put it on, and you don't figure out till way down the road that there's a problem between you two, right? But
Yeah.
traveling was great. We went through some stressful situations, and she was super solid, especially in Asia. Like she was really good.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Let's get into the traveling first because I feel like
Yeah,
that's something that's kind of like a hot topic. People are always interested in that. And
yeah,
especially with this lockdown, people are itching to get out of Vancouver
yeah,
or wherever they're from. I'm going to start off by saying as well, I really like doing this in the morning, dude. I feel a lot better than doing it in the evening. I like
yeah.
this a lot better, man.
I like doing everything in the morning, like working out. I hate working out after work. Like I like getting up at 5:30 and going to the gym. It's just, and like right now I'm at my parents' house because we was telling Mark before they hired a Johnny Cash impersonator last night. That was a fun little COVID concert, and everyone's sleeping, so it's just me and you, right? Like you can just think about whatever you want. No one's invading your bubble, and yeah, I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, man. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening this to. But we're sitting here in the morning drinking coffee together, and it's pretty sweet. I like this a lot better than doing it in the afternoon
Yeah,
or evening. But let's jump into the traveling thing. Sorry, I got sidetracked there.
that's okay.
How did you even start to plan this trip? Because you pretty much did it fresh out of
Yeah.
university, right?
So I knew I was going to do it when I graduated. Like all through university, I saved up. I had various strategies so I wouldn't like impact my social life, but I could still save money. And
Yeah,
it worked. I saved like quite a bit, like 20 grand. And then with working on while we were traveling, like it was able to fund the whole thing, which is great. So the way I planned it was I just knew I was going to go. I was going to start in Australia, and I didn't really want to plan from there because I find like when you're traveling, if you make plans, they'll fall apart and you get disappointed. Like, because buses don't show up, right? Places close down, that kind of thing,
yeah,
especially in Asia. Like, if you have a solid plan where I have to do this, this, and this, or like I'm going to be upset, you're going to have some problems.
you're gonna be upset.
You're going to be upset. 100% you will be disappointed.
Yeah. So like how like you started so like first year of college, you were like, hey, I'm gonna travel when this is all over.
Yeah, well, kind of my basis for it was when I was in high school, I got into a bit of trouble, and I basically left all my friends that were getting in trouble, and they continued, unfortunately, to get in trouble. This is how I got into mental health, public speaking, but we'll go through that later.
Mm.
And I started out Douglas College, and a lot of people that I knew were in university, and they all were saying, "Oh, you're stupid going to Douglas, Dougie daycare, that kind of thing." But I just knew I had my vision. I was going to get from Douglas to SFU, and then I was going to travel. And I did everything that I thought. I had this huge spreadsheet in first year of everything I had to do to get there, all the money I had to save, all the classes I had to do, the grades I had to get to
Wow.
transfer, and one by one just checked them off, and ended up, saving up and going traveling. And I met Emily, and we started dating, and I told her I was going traveling, and if she wanted to come, and we were working out then, like, sure. But if she doesn't want to go, then we should probably break up because I'm going to leave. Like, it was going to happen regardless. I had to do it.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. Have you always been so disciplined to like actually plan things out like that? Because that's actually pretty insane. Like the foresight that you had to
Yeah.
like actually start to plan all of that.
Yeah. Well, from like 17 onwards, yes. Before then, my high school days, no, not at all. I was kind of all over the place. So that's why I kind of started becoming disciplined. Because if I wasn't disciplined, I would have ended up in the same place where I was, which is not somewhere I wanted to be. So I
Right.
kind of had to like, the term is like pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
And I'd take control and hold myself accountable for what had happened and just move forward. Don't look back.
Nice, man.
And
I
I feel
like
like you've done a similar thing too. Like when I met you and we were both 17, we were completely different people, right?
yeah, man. Thank
And
goodness.
yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
and then while I was traveling every day, like we just wake up. We had a rough plan of where we wanted to go, but every day just wake up. Okay, you want to do this? Sure, let's go. Oh, the bus isn't running. Cool, let's go to the beach. Like, who cares?
unreal. Yeah, I love that, man. It gives you such a sense of presence. Like you're just like in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that really worked out was we had a 3-month bus pass on the east coast of Australia. Which anyone that goes to the east coast of Australia, you got to get the 3-month hop on hop off pass because you can go anywhere on the east coast, up or down. It's like $400. It was a killer deal. And if we would have had a plan to like do the East Coast in 3 months, we would have ended up in Melbourne, which is at the south end of Australia, at the end of the 3 months. But along the way, we were at some places we're like, we don't really like it. Let's just keep going. So we kept going, and we got to Melbourne with like 3 weeks left on the pass. And then we discovered that the pass also can get you into the desert, which is super expensive if you just hire a bus or renting a car. It's very dangerous to drive in the outback. I can get into that if you want because we did do that. But
Yep.
we decided, okay, we'll just fly to Tasmania, which is the island on the bottom of Australia. Did like a 6-day road trip, flew back and went to Adelaide. And then we had this time left on the bus pass. So we just ripped up into the desert. And yeah, it was like a 2,000 kilometer bus ride, and we were able to do it all for free. So
That's insane.
yeah, it was sweet. And that just goes to show if you don't plan things, you just go with the flow, you end up having a way better time.
Yeah, that's so sick. And so when you say like it's like super dangerous to drive into the outback if you just have a car, I'm assuming you're talking about like overheating the vehicle
Yeah,
or
anything.
stranded out there.
Yeah, if you're stranded, you're done. Like you have to have a lot. We had a lot of spare water, so we drove actually from Adelaide to Perth, which is 5,000 kilometers after the
Okay.
Outback trip, and we went through portions of the Outback. We didn't go deep into it, but yeah, your biggest dangers are the car breaking down. That's huge, especially on roads where there's only like one person passing by a day.
Yeah.
You do not want to get stuck there. Another thing is once the sun starts to go down, all the kangaroos come out on the road. They like the road because it's warm, and
Okay.
people get hit them. So like cars aren't even insured past like 5 o'clock. Like my insurance on the car, you weren't insured past. You weren't allowed on the road past 5 o'clock on a rental car.
Just because of the kangaroos.
You see it. You see it. You see cars with kangaroos in them. They're just abandoned in the desert, and because it's the desert, things don't decay. So there's just kangaroos hit everywhere. And the bus we took, it would hit like they wouldn't stop because the bus had it's called a train. They're called road trains. So they have like semi trucks with like 4 or 5 carts on the back, like trailers. They cannot swerve or they're gonna flip. And our bus had like the mail train. So it was the mail train because that's how they got the mail there. It was on the back of the bus. So they couldn't swerve. So this had a huge rammer and just run the kangaroos over. And he hit like 100 of them when we were driving in. It was nuts.
Could you feel it? Like, could you
Oh,
feel it
yeah.
when you hit it?
Yeah, and I sat up at the front with them and watched, and they just go flying because we're going like 150 kilometers an hour in this huge, huge machine, right?
That's insane.
Yeah,
That's
and
that's
every trip hits
terrible.
100.
That's terrible.
I know, it's brutal, but that's why it's dangerous to be on the road. And then your last factor is there are people that live in the desert, like desert people, and it's no joke that they'll if they can get you, like we saw one of them. They had a baby carriage and it said help, and it was someone on the side of the road with a
Yeah.
baby carriage. And it was a sign that said help, and there's no baby in there. So like what happens is they'll pretend to be injured, like someone will cut their wrists and be like, "Oh, I'm bleeding," and then you'll pull over to help them, and like 30 dudes will jump out of the bush and just take all your stuff.
Wow.
So that's
Like highway bandits, man.
yeah, for real. And the advice we got from a police officer and a guy who had actually done this was you just run them over. If they jump out, if someone jumps out in front of your car, you just hit them and keep going and call the police when you're in the next town because they'll jump out in front of your car so you hit them. And we met a guy who actually hit someone, that someone did that. And then a huge group of guys was chasing after his car.
Wow. Like
Yeah.
he hit like so someone like waits on the side of the road like an insurance fraud in North America type
Yeah.
of deal.
Yeah.
Jumps in front of a vehicle, gets hit, hopes that they don't get hit too bad,
Yeah.
and then expects the driver to stop, and then a bunch of people come out and mug the guy.
Yeah. Mug the guy to take everything in your car, and then you get sued for hitting the guy. And I never like saw a video of it happening, but we talked to a cop who said that. And I met a guy who said he actually ran someone over who jumped out from his car. And he looked pretty rattled when he was talking about it, so I believe him.
And so like did he slow down after and stop, or he was just like he knew what was
He
going
knew.
on? He's like that was
Apparently everyone came out of this bush and was coming after him. These desert people, man.
What in the world, man? That's insane.
Anyways, yeah, that's why it's not recommended to drive in the Outback. That's
So yeah. Needless to say, jump on that bus pass. Get that 3-month bus pass.
So anyways, what I was saying was by going with the flow, you end up having these weird experiences, right? That you would have never had. Like I didn't plan to go into the desert.
Yeah. Want to learn about the desert people out there, man.
Yeah. And when we were on our road trip, the 5,000 kilometer road trip, we didn't have a set place where we wanted to stay. We just pull over to a random beach, and we had a tent on the top of our car. We just pitch it and camp on the beach. And we ended up going faster, just like the East Coast trip. We went up in this super cool beach town for Christmas. And I went to a trailer park, and there were all these guys on holidays there, a lot of police officers and nurses and stuff. And it's awesome. Yeah, so anyways, go with the flow. That's the biggest piece of advice.
That's unreal. This is just a random question, but like when you were there, did you so you rented a car, but then you just bought a bunch of stuff to use with it, or?
Yeah, we rented a car that was spray painted. Well, it was super cheap, piece of crap, and it had a tent on the roof. So we didn't have to pay for any accommodation. You just pitch the tent anywhere on the side of the road. Doesn't matter. And we'd be up there, and it was pretty creepy because like anyone could come in the tent. We're in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah. Yeah. So was this like a rental company, or was this just like
Yeah.
some random guy you met at the airport?
No, rental company. They do this. Yeah, called Wicked Campers. I actually wouldn't recommend you use them. They was a pretty crappy car.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, we had some problems, and they did not help us. But what do you expect?
Yeah, fair enough, man. So you went Australia, New Zealand, and then you went Southeast Asia, you said?
Yeah, yeah. So went to New Zealand. I lived in New Zealand when I was a kid for a bit. We were there, and I always thought being a sheep farmer would be cool. So one of my goals when I was 17 was I'm going to graduate. I'm going to work on a sheep farm. So that's what I did in New Zealand. Worked on a coastal sheep and beef farm, 1,000 acres. That was awesome. And Emily took care of the farmer's kids, so it worked out really well.
Unreal, man. And so how did you like kind of make the transition from country to country? How did you kind of plan out like the time frame that you'd be in each one? Like how did you know it was time to move on to the next place?
We hit every country on the low season. So we were we hit Australia in the low season because we were on a super budget. That's another fun part about traveling is if you just count every penny, like you can save so much money and it's so satisfying. I
Yeah.
was like the cheapest guy of all time. Like especially in Asia, like you would not believe how cheap it was for like the 4 months that we were there. But yeah, so we hit Australia in the low season, went to New Zealand during the summer, which is high season, but worked. So less people work during the high season because they want to travel.
Right.
New Zealand, so the wages are better. So we hit the
Right.
good wages, worked on the farm, sunny every day, except for the last like 2 weeks when it started to become winter, it started raining. So that was fantastic. And the farm was right on a beach, so I just go fishing after work or go out and shoot some turkeys, goats, the kind of thing. And
Unreal.
then we left the farm during New Zealand's low season, did a road trip of the South Island, got a super discounted rate on a beautiful camper van, like a luxury one. We decided because we did that crappy car in Australia, we get the luxury Sprinter van with all the bells and whistles.
Nice.
And that was great. And then flew to Asia during their low season, which is the rainy season. But they ended up having a huge drought, so there wasn't even a lot of rain. So everything worked out perfect.
Yeah. And so how long were you in Asia for?
Like 4 months, 3.5.
And which like countries did you go to in specific?
We did I don't have a map. It'd be easier with the map, but we did went from Thailand, landed in Bangkok, went North Thailand, then into Laos or Lao, depending on how you want to say it. Went down Lao to Vientiane, which is the capital of Lao, and flew up to Hanoi in Vietnam. Hung out there for a bit, and we took a sleeper train, which is something I recommend everyone does. It's like $10, and they get your own cart in the train. Never done that before, and that would cost thousands to do that in Canada. And you get your own bed, and they rip you up north. And there's like a rice village called, I would say rice farming village called Sapa. And we just hired a guy, and he walked us around. We went on a 60-kilometer 4-day trek, which is pretty dope.
Wow.
And once you get past the touristy part, most people just go for one day, and it's just a bunch of people trying to sell you stuff.
Right.
Once you actually get to the village, it is sweet. Like, they live off the grid, man. Like, they trade, like, you give them money, and they'll just go down to Hanoi and buy salt with it so they can trade it up north. Like, they
it's
live
just like a barter system.
Yeah, 2,000 years ago. Same thing.
Wow. So
And
it's
they
like
Sorry?
I was gonna say, so it's kind of like just like a completely like a modern barter system.
Yeah, well, it's the same system they've always had. And the rice, the rice doesn't leave there. The people grow the rice and they sell it to people, and some people have buffalo, fishing, some people build stuff, right? It's awesome. It's like exactly like it's free market capital basically in its essence.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's not like, hey, this is worth what we all agree that it's worth. This is worth what it is worth to you.
Yeah, like you need rice really bad, but you'll trade some more buffalo, right? So then the buffalo gets cheaper. Like it was so sweet. Like I loved it, and no one spoke English, which I also thought was awesome.
Yeah.
No one spoke English except for my guide, who spoke a tiny bit of English. So we're just
Right.
following this guy. We can't even really talk to him. And he's like, he can't even explain anything. So we're just walking for 8 hours through these villages, and there's just all this stuff going on, crazy construction. Like it was awesome.
That's insane.
They're Viet Cong, like they're the far north, so they're still from the war. That's where the Viet Cong came from, up around there. So everyone still wears army helmets with the VC on it, still supporting the communist fighters who freed Vietnam, as they put it. I mean, there's a different history in America, but they view it as they liberated Vietnam, which they did. So they, everyone's wearing the VC helmets, which is crazy to think about, because I always heard about that when I was growing up, about how bad they were, right?
Yeah.
But then you just talk to them. We had one guy who was a teacher, and he was able to translate. And they're all old, like they're tired of people telling them what to do. The French were there and the Americans were there, and they just took it back over for themselves, and they won, and they're super proud of it. So that was really interesting to see that side of Vietnam.
Yeah, it's really a funny thing, man. History. We think that like history as we know it is like factual, but
yeah, but their history cuts some lies too. Like,
well, it's always perspective. Like everything's from someone's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, like we went to the prison where John McCain was held, and like he had scars. Like, it's well known that they tortured people there.
Yeah.
They had photos of him with a turkey smiling, and they're like, "Look how well we treated John McCain." Like, that's what people think there. They think that they were like giving the Americans turkey. That's what everyone thinks. So history is written by the victor, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're just like the person that's there to tell it at the time. It's not always like, because victor is a pretty subjective.
Yeah, okay, perfect, yeah.
Yeah, it's like just whoever's there to tell it at the time.
Yeah. But anyways, back to that. We ripped down Vietnam, went to Cambodia, ripped up Cambodia up north, and then back into Thailand. If you see a map, you'll see what I mean. But back into Thailand, went down to the party islands. You know, we'd done enough culturing, as I'd put it. So we just went to the party islands and partied there, went to the full moon party, all that stuff. That was fun.
Nice.
Then I went to Malaysia and Singapore, and then flew back. So that was the route.
That's sick. So for someone that, you know, is like maybe hearing all this stuff and they're like, dude, I want to do this. Like, I don't know how he was able to travel like that. Like, I'm sure they've got like millions and millions of questions.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd be fine with them reaching out and asking you.
Oh, 100%. I've helped a lot of people travel.
Yeah.
Obviously now the plans are scrapped because of COVID, but it's not that hard to save up money to go. You just have to, there's some techniques I use to save a lot of money.
Yeah. And so before we get into something like that, like how, like, this is just like me being curious, man. Like, how do you go about like meeting guides in these areas? Like, how do you go about like actually like the actual nitty gritty of this? Like say I arrive in Vietnam, like you just explained, and I'm like, I want to find a guide to just show me around different villages, but they don't even speak English. Like, how do you go about that?
Well, Google's a good thing. So like people will post their thing like, oh, I did this, and people will write reviews and be like, oh yeah, this guy's good. Okay, let's take him. I mean, you have to kind of take a chance, and you're going to get ripped off sometimes. That's one thing in Asia, especially in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, where Vietnam people are a little bit wealthier, but Cambodia and Laos, people are pretty poor. Because Laos is full communist, and they tax basically everything. The wage is like, it's like $2 a day. Like, it's brutal. So you really have to be able to negotiate and really try to understand, okay, is this guy trying to rip me off? Like, is this too good to be true? Like, am I gonna pay him and he's just not gonna show up tomorrow morning to guide me around? And if you do get ripped off, you can't get mad because this guy is just trying to feed his family and he lost $10. So what, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be. It really like toughens you, I think, to be able to actually like negotiate with people, and you just have to take a chance. That's basically it. You have to understand these people. They want your business because tourism pays way more than whatever they're doing. That's why they're doing tourism. That little bit of English they learned, that increases their earning power significantly. So lots of people do genuinely want to help. So we found people on Google, like Google reviews. We did some things with companies, like in Laos, went ziplining. Obviously, I'm not going on a random person's zip line in the jungle. Like, I'm making sure it's a vetted company.
Yeah, yeah.
So it doesn't snap. And some guys we met, like we just pay him half at night, and then he'd meet us somewhere at 5 a.m, take us on his boat, and we'd rip to like a market or whatever, a river market, and then we'd pay him the rest later. Buy him breakfast or whatever in the market, and that was how we did that. So it just depends.
That's cool, man. That's so sick. Man, that makes me want to travel. I've always like I've always wanted to do something like that, man. But I've always felt like one of my reserves for it is like, I feel like if I leave and go and do something like that for a few months, then I'm going to be like not set back, but almost stagnant in the other goals that I have or the other things that I want to work on. Did you ever feel like that?
Little bit, but you know, you get over it. I mean,
Yeah.
it was rough coming back, and then I was trying to transition to development, and obviously people are skeptical to give me a chance because I'm some random guy who left after university. So is he going to leave again? That was the question I got. Were you going to leave again? 6 months? What's the
Yeah.
move? Right? So
And you're like, nah, it's out of my system. I'm good.
yeah, but yeah, so it did hold me back a little bit, like in terms of the opportunity I could have. But what would I have really been doing over those 14 months? I would have been interning or starting some geoscience career in something I didn't even want to do. So I mean, I don't really care. And if you're so concerned about that, like either like obviously you just have to get over it. There's nothing you can really do to kind of push it down. Just do it. You got to think about what you're doing right now. Okay. Can you come back to it? Right? You do construction? Probably you can.
Yeah.
So just hop on a plane and go.
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that.
Maybe if your YouTube shoots off and you can make some cash while you're living in Vietnam, you might actually be able to earn more money because your living costs will be so low.
Dude, that'd be unreal. That'd be absolutely unreal. If I could work remote, that would be pretty sweet.
That's what a lot of tech guys do. Software developers, met a lot of them that live in Vietnam.
Because it's just so cheap to live there, eh?
Dude, it's like $3 a night. I mean, you can get a nice apartment Airbnb for like $10.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
So you're not just living, like you're not surviving, rather you're living, and you're going out to the market every night. Like you work during the day 8 hours and go out to the market and like go to the clubs, and it's just a party.
That's so sick, man.
I know. I've met some really cool people that do that.
That's really cool, man. I don't think I could do it permanently though, because like you, I don't know if like that's something like I kind of like having a foundation beneath me. I like having like kind of like family and friends around me, close circle. I'm a big community guy, so I need to have my community around me.
You create a community there though. If you take like, especially in Asia,
you're saying all the right things, man.
If you take a route, like common route was the route we took. It's like a very line, right? It's a straight line basically. Well, it's not straight, but you're hitting everywhere. So we met people that we'd see. Oh, I saw you in Laos. Now you're in Hanoi at this club. Oh, cool, dude. How's it going?
Unreal, man.
Right, and we actually ended up traveling with a girl because we were in Laos and we were in a hotel together. In her room, she got attacked. She was beside us, and some dude broke into her room. He's actually the owner of the hotel.
What?
Another tip: bring your own lock. Don't ever trust those locks because they have the key to them. So they'll come in your room at night. And obviously, he passed our room because I was in there. Right, I'm 6'3", and people in Laos are pretty small. Like this guy's like 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
So he's not coming in our room, but he broke into her room, and took a bunch of money, and then hopped in bed with her and tried to sexually assault her. And he picked the wrong girl. She threw him out. And then
wow.
Yeah. So like then we're like, okay, well you're doing the same route as us. Just come travel with us. She's like, cool. So then there's 3 of us.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So it was. Yeah, so it's just you make your own community, man. At all these hostels, like there are people. If you're in Australia and there's people working on a farm, they're going to be there for 6 months. So it's just a big group of people.
Yeah, that's sick, man.
Yeah, so it's.
You're slowly convincing me, dude. I swear to God. The second
when COVID's done, dude, let's go to Vietnam. I'll go with you for a bit, show you the ropes, then you can go off on your own. How about that?
Dude, if you're down, I'm down.
I am. Yeah, I'm definitely going. Like I'm going back to Vietnam 100%.
Okay, this is something we're gonna have to connect with and actually plan out the schematics.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Anyways, love that, man. Let's jump to it. Dude, that's unreal. I'm happy.
That's traveling in a nutshell.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to talk to Alex about that, I'm gonna link his like social media and stuff. So if you want to message him and ask him about that, because I know I will.
Yeah.
Feel free to. I'm sure Alex, you're a pretty open guy. I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah. And one more thing, like the way I travel might not be the way you want to travel. So the advice I give you, you might think like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. Because I like roughing it. I like find the cheapest option possible. And some people, they want to spend an extra couple bucks and say somewhere nicer, which is totally fine too. You post it on your Instagram story, nice infinity pool, right? So that wasn't me though. I was in the slums, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd be happy with either one, man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 100%. Anyone can reach out to me about
Sweet.
traveling. It was a
Now,
great experience.
now let's get into going into like public speaking, because that is something that I feel like another thing that, people always want to do something that is a little bit out of the norm,
Yeah.
is like a self-employed kind of feeling, I suppose, or I guess it's just like not their typical 9 to 5 type of activity to do. So
Yeah.
like, how did you even get into public speaking? Like, what made you interested in it?
Well, this is another thing where like you just have to, if you think you want to do something, just keep hitting the phones and see if you can make something work. Because so basically how I got into it was I had some issues growing up, right, in high school, got into some trouble. You probably know about it. Had a pretty crappy reputation. I mean, just stupid stuff. I mean, I never did anything really bad, but when I was 16, got into trouble. Got into trouble with the police, and basically decided then, like, okay, this isn't gonna work. This is really stupid. Like, what am I doing? I have great parents, right? They're together. Grew up in a wealthy neighborhood. Like, this is just not gonna be a good idea. So I kind of pivoted off that. It was pretty hard because I was really behind. Like, my grades in high school were just garbage. Had to go to Douglas College and like redo grade 12. And so I redid grade 12 and then did 4 years of uni and graduated. And a lot of people actually take 5 years to do uni. So I was caught right up with everyone, which is good. But so one thing that I was really frustrated with was this fentanyl crisis, right? So in 2012, this is the first time I heard about fentanyl because the guy that I know's cousin got busted selling fentanyl. And this is when I had gotten out of everything. I wasn't involved in fentanyl trade, by the way, just a disclaimer. I wasn't involved like the heavy drug trade. Like, that was not what I was doing. People have relatives or you hear about things, right?
Yeah.
And they said there's this thing called fentanyl. And it's like, it's going to be like heroin times 100. It's going to change the game. And it's so cheap to get. And he was telling me about it. And I was like, geez, like I'm glad that's really bad. Like, I knew something bad was going to happen. And then lo and behold, man, like 2013, 2014, all these guys I used to hang out with, like, they start overdosing and dying. And and then they die. So then their friends get depressed, and then suicides, that kind of thing. So I was probably like 19, super frustrated, super mad. And I just didn't know like how to deal with it internally. I was struggling with it because it makes you so angry, right? That like people, like, now I realize like people take drugs because they have problems and they're trying to like eliminate the problem in their life. And the fact there's poison in them, it was so bad. So like, I even went as far as like thinking about like, oh, I'll go after some dealers that are selling this fentanyl, right? Like I'll go get them, like kind of vigilante. And I'd heard about people that were doing that, but I didn't hop on that train because that's just like plugging one hole. Like, if you get one guy or arrest one, it's the same thing as arresting him. If you get one guy, then another guy's going to pop up because there's so much money to be made that you cannot stop it. So you got to go to the source of why people do drugs. And I had a unique insight because I was never a drug addict, but I have this kind of brain where I take in information from everywhere. So I kind of know the industry. I know how it works. And I just saw what happened to people, and people were depressed. They're using drugs and they die. So I reached out to this counselor that I had when I was in high school, who really helped me pivot my life. And I just said, like, on LinkedIn, I was like, hey, thanks for like helping me pivot. You made a huge difference, which is great for her, right? It's great for her to hear that she made a difference in my life. I said, coffee and catch up. She's like, sure. And we caught up, and I just asked if there's anything going on where I can help out, because I'm just frustrated what's going on. And I think that if I can, just talk to kids or anything to like just tell them, like, like, gain skills to deal with their problems that don't involve doing lines of coke, right? Or like how to numb yourself out like that. And then one thing led to another, and I was speaking in front of doctors. That was the first one I did, just about, I don't know, my experience and like how they can like help someone that comes in that's having some problems, like kind of encourage them to get on the right path. And then people heard me talk, and apparently I was good at it. And I made tons of jokes, like not inappropriate jokes, but it's a heavy subject. So I like to keep it kind of light, or else it just gets depressing and people start crying, right? It's just, that's not a good time. No one wants to go to a seminar or like a talk and just hear about a bunch of depressing stuff, which is one of the things that I found that was an issue in that industry of public speaking. It's just super, super heavy.
Yeah.
And even if people want to make a difference, like hearing that kind of stuff, it kind of turns you off almost because it's so bad.
Yeah, it just triggers negative emotions, and then
Yeah,
that
you
kind
want
of,
to trigger positive emotions. Like you want to say, okay, this is what's happening right now, but here's how you can make a difference, right?
yeah.
Right?
Here's the amount of lives you can change. Here's the
Yeah,
amount of like impact,
yeah.
how much impact you could have.
So yeah, so that's one thing. Impact is what I use. That's actually my main tool to get people fired up about it. As I say, if you let's say you got a kid in your class, like this is an example for teachers. The teacher was saying like, well, we were under resourced, right? That's a huge complaint with teachers. They don't have enough resources. Too many people in the class. How are they supposed to make a difference in some kid's life? And I said, you don't have to do anything. You just have to just ask him what's going on. Like I said, just when he's acting like an idiot, instead of saying like you're an idiot in front of the whole class, which teachers do because it's frustrating.
Yeah.
You can pull him aside and say, hey, buddy, like what's actually going on? Like, are you feeling okay? Like a teacher did that to me one time. He got me suspended because I didn't want to take off my hat and I threw a big tantrum in his class, right? And he felt bad that I got suspended because he knew like there's something else going on. This kid is not like, it's not normal behavior to be acting like that. So he pulled me aside and he was like, what's going on, man? Like, how are you feeling? Like, what's anything going on at home? And the fact that someone like talking like that, it was really nice. So I could always go to him if I had some issues. And he actually was a big part in me getting my stuff back on track and actually graduating high school on time.
That's sick.
But so the way I put it with impact is, let's use you as an example. And this is nothing you've ever done, I hope. So don't take offense to it. Let's say that you're like 15 years old. You come from a bad house, right? You don't have a lot of food in your house. Your parents are, maybe your dad's locked up, mom's using drugs, maybe she's like prostitute or something.
Yeah.
These are people that live in the community, man, and they go to school with me, who has perfect family. So that just adds on the pressure of like, God, like I wish I was right like that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's depressing. So he comes home, starts smoking pot, right? Starts maybe doing MDMA, lines of coke, like just to get over the feeling. But that stuff costs money. How's a 15-year-old with no guidance going to get money? Well, he's going to commit crimes. You'll go out, like rob a car, not steal a car, but you like break into it, take some change. Oh, that worked. I got $3. Okay. Do another one. And eventually you're making like $300 a night, smashing people's windows and cars. So imagine if you can fix that kid, fix, it's a bad word. I have to be careful with the terminology, but if you can get that kid on the right path and show him, okay, teach him how to not use drugs, teach him coping mechanisms, get him motivated, maybe get him some skills, like work at a restaurant or something, and you'll see like he'll be a dishwasher, and then once he learns how to cut the food good, he could be a prep cook, and then you get like a $2 pay raise, and you can see like as you acquire skills, your wage goes up, and then your seniority goes up, and then your life just gets better. And then you like positive emotions, right? So imagine if you can get that kid on the right path, how many cars you're going to save? Like how pissed off would you be if someone smashed your window and took your phone out of your car? It'd ruin your whole week.
Yeah.
Imagine if someone's doing that every single night, how many weeks that guy's going to ruin, and then they're going to take it out on their family at home. It's a big web. So if you can save one person, you've saved 1,000 people's weeks from getting ruined at a minimum. That's just with cars getting broken into if the kids break into cars. That's not even including like them selling drugs to other kids, getting other kids into drugs, right? Mm-hmm. It's just that's how I look at it. Yeah, with impact. So anyways, back to how I got started. So I just started doing them. People be like, hey, come do this one. Okay. Oh, I have this idea. Come join this collaborative or initiative. Sure. Mm-hmm. Right. And then I would start reaching out to people and asking them if they want me to tag on. And I ended up working on some pretty cool projects. And once again, because of COVID, that kind of fell apart because you can't really fill a theater up anymore.
Can't gather. Yeah, we can't gather.
And I don't do it for the money. So I don't want to do it over Zoom because it's not the same experience talking to a computer. I want to be able to see people's emotions, actually engage with them. So I've been kind of quiet on it lately.
Yeah, because I guess that there's still people doing stuff like that. They just host massive Zoom calls.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, there's pros and cons to every industry, right? Found like people pay a lot of money because it's government funded. There's a few people that just want to get paid, right? And a few people do want to make a difference, and you can't over Zoom. It's just not for me. I don't want someone to pay me to like
Yeah.
talk to a computer. It's just not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Not good use of my time, I don't think.
I feel like you get people like that in every single industry, I feel like.
Yeah.
So there's people that show up and they just want to get paid, and they've either fallen into that place because it was just like an easy route for them. Maybe
Yeah.
their family or their friends do it, or maybe they thought that if they were to do that job, they would just make a lot or be looked at differently.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of people that actually like don't really care about what they're doing.
Oh yeah, well you look at like charities, like there's good charities, obviously bad charities, even like religion, like those, I don't know, I'm not religious, but those guys, like what are they called, televangelists,
Televangelists, yeah.
that like just makes like 600 million bucks, got like jets. It's that guy who won't fly in economy class because the demons are there or something. I think that guy's obviously taking advantage of everybody, and that's just brutal.
Yeah.
But anyways, I like to
Maybe
focus on that part. Like I don't like. I find myself getting bogged down sometimes with that stuff, so I just don't even think about it. I just do what I'm doing, do my thing. You know, I'm making a difference, make a little bit of money on the side, right? And that's all I really want to do.
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that. And so, like, your kind of mantra, like the whole thing I've kind of gotten out of like what you talk about, and you've even said this to me before in the past, is like in terms of like the traveling, the public speaking, and then like the career shift that you've done,
Yeah.
like changing from, you know, something more like geology into something that you're doing now, which is like kind of real estate development.
Yeah.
Your whole like mantra or the energy behind like what you do, it seems to be, is if you want to do something, just go and do it. Like nobody's stopping
Yeah.
you from
Yeah.
getting what you're looking for.
Yeah. And you have to understand that you can't just like do exactly what you want to do. Like I'd love to manage a development of a massive condo. That'd be sweet. Right? It's good money. You get to build people's houses. It's all budgeting. I love budget. I love the whole game of negotiating with all the contractors. Like I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And but I can't just go do that. I have to start at the bottom, learn it, or else if you put me in charge of a condo right now, the condo's gonna fall over. Right? It's not gonna go up because I have no idea what to do. So my thing is, yeah, you talk to people what they want to talk about, and then you take little tidbits of that, and you figure out, okay, do I want to do this? Yeah, sure, I'll do it. Okay, what you say, what do you look for in someone that you want to hire? They say, okay, I want someone with a diploma of urban land economics. Heard that from a couple people. Okay, I apply to the program, get in. Okay, I got to work, right? I got to start doing courses now, and I'm learning some stuff with the courses. And because I'm doing the courses, then more people want to talk to me, right? And then when you get hired somewhere, you take a skill that you have from somewhere else, and if you can apply it to that job and discover a problem that they have, and then have the solution because you know something they don't, then you're valuable, and they might keep you around. And then you get to learn what you want to learn. Right?
That's sick, man. That's sick.
Yeah.
So
never actually gotten the opportunity to talk about this with someone like this. Like I'll do it on a personal level, but not like where other people are going to watch. So
yeah, well,
frame my thoughts, right?
It's cool because like jumping into, so like when you jump into the new job that you're in now, right?
Yeah.
And you get to start applying all the skills from all the places that you're in. I think now it sounds like you're kind of in a position to start to help other people do the same thing.
I could. I want to make sure though I'm more in the industry. I can't just like be an intern, like start trying to show everyone what to do. That's one of my pet peeves with a lot of people like on LinkedIn and influencers and stuff. It's like, we're all 24. What do we know? Like, I know you can motivate and like cold call, but yeah, my strategy to get in and learn things and do what you're not comfortable with is good. But I want to wait a couple years to make sure I actually love it before I start helping other people out, right? Secure your own mask before assisting others.
Yeah. No kidding. But I mean, it's not even industry specific, right? Like, I just feel like the act of, like, you have a kind of knack for just where other people would kind of see an opportunity and then think about it. You just kind of jump in on it. Yeah,
you jump in, and if you don't like it, you can just leave. Right? Like I've gone for coffee with people that work at companies, and I'm just like, oh my God, right? This is not where I want to work. I don't want to be like that. Okay. But it's not a waste of time. I mean, there's just different people everywhere. And if I didn't like the industry, I would have known, instead of applying to jobs, going to interviews and getting a job and then being like, oh, I hate it. Or at least I kind of know, okay, there's a good chance I'm going to like this. I like the energy of these people, right? It's very intense. Very where I work right now, it's laid back but intense, right? No one takes themselves too seriously from what I've seen, but like it's game on when if something goes wrong with one of the developments, like it's like they snap like this and boom, they're right into it and they're figuring out what the problem is and putting out the fire.
Yeah.
Not real fire, but
they're not firefighters.
No, there's no fires in the sites as far as I know.
That's
so
good.
Yeah.
So for someone that, like wants to go and travel, or maybe they want to get into public speaking, or maybe they want to do like a huge pivot in their career, but they just, with any of those things, they just kind of feel like, well, I can't really do it because I don't want to leave my family, or I can't really do it because I'm scared of losing this opportunity, or whatever it is. Like, what would you kind of say to them?
Well, those are very real emotions that people face, right? So it's always scary to do something different, no matter what it is. And it can be painful too. Mm-hmm. Think about if you don't run and you want to run a marathon, it's going to be painful to get there. It's going to be horrible, right? But then once you can run the marathon, run 30K is easy. So it's all about like David Goggins, you watch him?
Oh yeah.
Now I like David, but I've told you before, those like super hyper, like you gotta do it. Like I don't like living my life like that. But you can take little bits and pieces from it. And what I like what he says is you gotta always raise your comfort level. Mm-hmm. But your comfort level can also lower too. So like, here's an example. Like if I was talking to someone I work with the other day, and I said, like, if I woke up one day and I had to do your job, I would like shit my pants, right? I'd blow it. I have no idea what to do, and I just blow it. But you wake up every day, and that's your job. This is what you do. It's easy for you. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously hard parts with the job. You get to work, and you're, okay, I know exactly what I need to do. And to get there, this guy had to work like 15 years to learn everything. So he's always raising his comfort level, right? And then, so if I'm comfortable right now, okay, I want to get somewhere where I'm a little bit anxious, where it's hard, where I'm learning. Because once I get there, then where I am right now is just like easy. You can do it in your sleep. And then where I thought like I couldn't do before, that's like my everyday. And then you keep raising the bar. Just like if you're working out, right? Mm-hmm. You can't bench. I don't think you can bench 4 plates on the bench.
Nope.
But if you wanted to and you really stuck to it, you probably could. And then where you're at right now, you do for a freaking warm up. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
I saw this. I remember thinking about that. I saw this guy on YouTube. He's called like the Hulk or something. I can't remember the YouTuber that had him on. CT Fletcher, I think his name is. That's the workout guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who. I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about, man.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hulk does 405 for a warm-up. That's his warm-up, 405 on the bench. He's just pumping them out. Right? And I was thinking, man, like that guy probably started only being able to do 1 plate. And now he's doing 405 for a warm-up. Obviously, he's on roids, but the fact is that he built his comfort level, even though that's not comfort, that's like physical level, up to a point where he was before is so easy he doesn't even do it.
Yeah, he doesn't even have to think about it.
He doesn't even have to think about it. So that's how I think about things. Right? I want to be somewhere, but you can't just do it. You have to build up your comfort level to where you know exactly what to do, and that becomes your day-to-day. And then once you're there, you want to keep going.
Yeah.
And so if you want to pivot careers, it's going to be scary, but eventually you're going to figure it out, right? If you work hard at anything, you'll be able to figure it out. You might not be able to become a millionaire, but you'll be able to figure out exactly what's going on. So the first step is to talk to people in the industry and just ask them about it. Don't ask them for a job. Just ask them about their life. Like, what were you doing when you were my age? And you hear some hilarious stories, right? Some of them weren't doing anything. And they decide at 30, okay, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm only 24. So I'm 6 years ahead of this guy. And look where he is now. I can get there, I think, right? So that's how I look at it. And it just has to do with anxiety, man. And people, you get nervous, but you got to think like most people want to help you. If they're willing to meet up with you, they're not going to tell you you're an idiot, right?
Yeah, they're not going to mislead you at that. Well,
some people might, but you got to be careful. There are those people out there. But if you want to go traveling, talk to people who have traveled and maybe plan a small trip first. Maybe like a 2-week trip, maybe like a road trip, somewhere where you're uncomfortable. You're not staying at the Fairmont. You're not posting Instagram stories in Mexico, right? Getting drunk. Like somewhere where it's like, okay, you're roughing a little bit and where things can go wrong. Maybe you get a flat tire, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And if you can do that, then you can jump right into a backpacking trip. It's not as scary as it thinks. well, all these countries are their transportation systems are all geared towards tourists. It's such a big industry that it's easier than you think to get around and to book places.
That makes sense. Like a lot of these places, their economies are literally based on people, going
Yeah,
over and visiting.
yeah. Australia, the East Coast, right there, the whole grid is based around traveling. The
That's
whole grid
crazy,
up and
man.
down. Yeah. So what Emily and I did, because Emily had never done any traveling in her life, when she gets anxious about stuff, it is scary, right? Going to new places and
Mhm.
not knowing what's going to happen. If you break your leg, like where you go, that kind of thing. So we
Yeah.
started in Australia and New Zealand, which I would call like easy countries, because their whole industry, it's very, you just get on a bus and go here, and there's 3 hostels. Okay, stay at that one. You know it's going to be good. They're not going to have any real problems.
Right.
And then once she's comfortable doing that, then Asia's not that big of a leap up.
Yeah.
And that was kind of why we started in, like, if I started on my own, I probably would have started in Asia,
And then
right?
ended off with
Probably
Australia.
ended off in Australia. Yeah. I wanted to start in Asia because I just was dying to go there, but it was good. It was good. So that's the same philosophy. You raise your comfort level. You can sit on a bus and go to a town and stay at a hostel that you haven't read any reviews about. That's one step, because that is scary. You don't know what's going to be in there. There'll be bed
Yeah.
bugs, right? And then you're good at that. Okay. Then you work on a random farm with random people that you met over the internet. That's another scary step, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, now you can go to Asia and get on a bus that's like packed full of people, and you don't know where it's going to stop. They might not take you where you want to go. And then you got to take a cab back, and the cab driver might rip you off. And there's nothing you can do about it. And
Yeah. You just kind of have to, you're like, hey, this is still the opportunity to get where I need to go.
yeah, literally you have to get where you need to go. So you can't tell the cab driver, no, I'm not paying you, because he'll just boot you out of the car. You're stuck on the
Yeah.
road, right? And we had some hilarious things happen, man. Let's just have to bribe like border guards, that kind of thing. So
Wow.
yeah,
Insane.
well, they just
So,
won't let you through.
yeah, no kidding, man. I guess they have control. It's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, they call it the express fee, and if you don't pay the express fee, they just won't stamp your passport. It's awesome. I kind of liked it. I was like, yeah, you guys go. They all have their big gold chains on. I'm like, whatever. Here's a couple bucks. Like, good on you.
You're like, that's funny. I kind of like it.
Yeah, well, in their economy, right? They have so little money that, of course, if you can take money from a white guy
Yeah.
from Canada,
Yeah. It's like,
come
oh,
on, it's a slam dunk.
it's just slam dunk. That's too funny, man.
Yeah.
With like traveling, public speaking, like kind of pivoting your career, like what do you think was like the biggest, like not failure, but biggest setback? Was there any moment where you kind of like, damn, I don't know if I can do this?
That was definitely with the career because of COVID and my lack of education, because I didn't have a business background. So I got really frustrated here and like, well, you don't have a business background, right? Like why don't you go to, some people say like, why don't you go to business school? Like, I don't know, I was 17 and I wanted to live in a tent and mine rocks. Like,
Yeah.
right. So it was frustrating, but you got to remember where you want to be. I always came home and I had it written down where I want to be. And you just relax. If you had a bad day, cold calling or whatever, things aren't working out, someone cancels coffee on you. I had an interview somewhere. It looked like I was going to get hired. And then COVID hit, position gets scrapped. Guy who interviewed me, laid off. So, right. So it was very frustrating with COVID. And I mean, when you come over, you can talk to Emily about, like, I was very stressed out a couple of times. Like, it's hard, right? And I was expecting to work. So like money's starting to get tight because I just come back from traveling.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to live at home with my parents. So we had our apartment and it was stressful, but you got to do what you got to do. So I started landscaping, doing anything to make some money just to keep afloat until I got into somewhere. So
Right.
the hardest part is just getting rejected constantly. But you got to remember, from other people's perspective, why would you hire someone with no experience?
Yeah.
You're running a business, and if you screw up, the consequences are huge. Like with these developments, unless it's a massive company, if they screw up one, they're done, right? The whole company's done. Everything you've ever worked for, gone.
Gone.
So why would you, as a business person, hire someone who has a geoscience degree and just came back from a 14-month backpacking trip, right? So you have to remember that from their side.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely feel like it's very industry sensitive and very like position sensitive. Because the only time I was ever in a hiring position, I was managing a gym, bro. So it wasn't like a history, like history really mattered that much.
Yeah.
Because it was like,
attitude.
Yeah, it was like, well, is this person willing to learn how we operate? That's pretty much like where the requirements were. Yeah. It's like, do they have a cool attitude? I think they'll get along with the team. And are they willing to learn what we are doing right now?
Yeah, that's where I work right now. That's their philosophy right there. Like, just learn as much as you can right now.
That's and have fun, right? Because it's like, dude, I have to spend like, well, like that was like what I kind of like was looking for in my interviews. It's like, dude, I have to spend, probably like I'm going to be here 50, 60, 70 hours a week sometimes. And like this person is going to be here probably 20, 30. So like that's a third of my time.
Yeah.
That's right. No.
Yeah, you see that person more than you see your family.
Yeah. So like I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with this person, and I want to have like positive engagement, right? Like I want to minimize the negative interactions that I have in a day. So that was kind of all I had to look for.
Well, in entry-level positions where I'm working, right? But entry-level positions weren't popping up back then because the economy was in a rough spot. So even people who were veterans were getting laid off, right?
Yeah.
Which is absolutely brutal. Like I felt horrible for some people that I knew that had been laid off. It's so bad because of some virus, right? That they have no control. They didn't do anything wrong. They just, not even Canada didn't even do anything wrong. No one did anything wrong. This thing just got out of control. And it happens from time to time. And we all know it happens, but I guess we just weren't prepared for it because you just think, it's not going to happen, right? So, that's just, when you're in an entry-level position, you want to click with the people you're working with. And I think that is a big part. At my job, everyone clicks really well. Like I said, laid back until you need to be turned on. So unless there's a meeting on, like you just shoot the shit, make jokes, that kind of thing. And it's they have fun. They have fun. And I have fun too, even though I'm not like in the clique yet, right? I'm not in the group, so I'm just the intern. But I can see that they have a lot of fun.
And Alex the intern, eh?
Yeah.
Is that what they call you?
No. One guy, I won't say he didn't work there, but he was a consultant. He said that, we call interns idiots, like right in front of me. And I was like, oh, cool, man. Thanks.
You're like, wicked, dude. Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you have that attitude. I'll remember you.
Yeah. We call interns idiots. You're
yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Sweet. Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. If I'm ever in a position where I'm going to hire you, I don't think I'm going to. That's so funny. But it's a good vibe. And the most important thing that I found working there was I just find a problem that they have and just see if I can solve it. And I pitched a problem that I thought that they had, and they want me to solve it. So now I get to learn so much more, right? And then use the skills that I already have to benefit them. So it's mutually beneficial for everyone. That's
gutty, man. That's pretty gutty to start pitching like an issue with a company that you just started interning for.
That's how I roll, man. But it's it can go up. I knew it can be good or bad. Sometimes when people are like they're really stuck in their ways and they don't want some new guy telling them what to do, it can go horrible. But that's where the public speaking comes into play. Where that experience, all this experience that I've had doing other stuff, I know how to frame it in a way that's not like intrusive. Like, no, you're not doing something wrong, but like there's just always ways to improve everything. And you talk about the positives about what they're doing first, and then you say, okay, this isn't working as well. What I've noticed, this isn't working as well, and this is how we can fix it to make it better.
Yeah.
You're on board? Sure. Right? So.
Unreal.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about like when you worked at Nash? Would people ever come to you with problems that they thought they could solve, or is that not really because you guys were sales, right?
Yes and no. At Nash, we had some pretty rigid guidelines in terms of like what we would do on a daily basis in terms of like entry-level sales. And it was kind of explained as like a foolproof way of doing the job. And it was like a quantity of cold calls you had to do every day, a quantity of emails, a quantity of how many appointments you should book out of those contacts.
Okay.
and then also like a quantity of referrals that you had to get every single day. It was like an acronym that you had to fill.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cut and dry. It was very like it was very black and white. It was really easy to understand. You either you do it or you don't. And then if you were having troubles in your business, that was the first thing that the company would look at is, are you hitting that criteria? And there was a lot of people that thought they could cheat the system and they didn't have to do X amount of phone calls. Well, oh, well, you know what? In 2019, you don't have to do phone calls. Nobody picks up their phones. You can just text them or message them on Instagram. And fair enough, you can do that. But when you're 45 or 50-year-old or an older boss, maybe doesn't really like, it's not like they don't understand the technology, but they've seen that cold calling can give results for decades. It's going to be hard to convince them that you've cracked the code, right? Like our president even used to say, like, I remember when we would have meetings when I first got into management, I think it was the very first meeting I met up with all the other managers. Yeah. And he basically explained it like this. He said, if I gave you the perfect blueberry pie recipe and it made the best blueberry pie every single time, like it was like you like lost track of time while you're eating it. You forget about all your problems. It's the best blueberry pie. Would you try and alter that recipe? That's like kind of the mentality that he had about the system we were using.
Yeah. Well, they were a massive corporation, right? So the fact that like someone couldn't just switch something, they've obviously paid people tons of money to figure that out, like experts in streamlining and.
Yeah, well, and there was times even where we were adaptable as a company. There would be times where, you know, I worked at one of the locations out of like, there was like 21 gyms when I was working there. And there was 2 locations that tested out a new CRM. And so there was times where we kind of had our system challenged. Okay. But it was, you know what? Every time we tried a new system, I actually preferred the original method. And I don't know.
Yeah, because they had experts that made it, right? They probably hired some smart dudes who just knew.
Well, and I just was kind of used to it. I was there for 3.5 years. So after like a few months, it just became autopilot for me.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Also, because I came into the job kind of similar to you are talking about your job. I came into the sales position with absolutely zero sales background. Like, closest thing I could relate to it was I worked in a restaurant, and so I had to deal with people there. But I told my boss in the interview, I said, I don't care. I just like kind of in between jobs right now, and I'll do whatever you guys want to work in the gym because I was in a rough spot in my life at the time, and being in the gym was the only place I found like happiness or at least like a little bit of peace with myself. So so I just wanted to be in the gym. I told them, I was like, I'll do whatever job you want. And they were like, could you do sales? You're kind of charismatic. And I was like, never done it, but I'll do whatever you guys tell me to do.
That's exactly the attitude you need, right? Just be a yes man for a bit, hammer the phones, and you get good at it. And then they figure out you're good at it, and you're a manager all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, I remember, dude, the first time we had like a big promotion, everyone got like a bunch of lists of people that, you know, they had put on like 7-day passes in the past or people that had reached out to them. They had like interest lists. Yeah. So when they got a promotion, they could call those people and say, hey, you know what, we have, you know, a $0 joining fee right now, whatever it was, X amount of personal training sessions you can get. And they would try and get them to come back in, entice them to come back in. And I didn't have a list. Like I didn't have anyone built up. I had just started. Yeah. So like, I was like, who do I get to call? Who should I call? And my boss, she was like real strong, like woman, she alpha woman. She like kind of like laughed about it. And she gave me a fat stack of papers, like a big stack of papers. And it was just like a bunch of like, it was like name, phone number, and dates. And I was like, what are the dates here? And she's like, oh, that's when they canceled their membership. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, this is a list of people that just canceled in the last like 2 years. I want you to call them and just ask them why they canceled and see where the conversation goes.
Okay, that's good.
And so that's kind of where I kind of like learned that ability, was just like how to spark up a conversation, how to just like kind of get someone talking to you in a positive way, or hear their negative story and try and give them some sort of positive perspective. Because I would call people, man, and they would either scream at me, swear at me, yell at me. Like,
Nice. Yeah.
you know, living in Vancouver, how many times have you been called by Steve Nash? Dude, I worked there and I was still getting calls from other locations sometimes.
Yeah, I know. Steve Nash is annoying. When I quit there, when I moved out of South Surrey, like when I was 17, they called me all the time. I'm just like, well, you got to be persistent, right? And did you find the longer you get someone on the phone, the more likely it was that they'd come back? If you could
Yes
talk
and
to them
no.
for longer? Okay.
Yes and no. Sometimes if there was enough conviction behind them, I wouldn't need to have a long phone call. Like it would just be like, yeah, I'm coming in today. And they would just be there. And then it would be like quick, easy kind of deal. Sometimes people just wanted to complain because they get free things. Sometimes people just wanted to complain because they have no one else to talk to. So if you got them on the phone, they'll happily chat your ear off for 45 minutes just complaining about random things.
Nice. That's when I worked at the city. During summers at uni, people would always complain to me about stuff that had nothing to do with what we were doing.
Yeah. I'd call them and ask them why they canceled their gym membership, asking if there was anything to improve. And they'd start going off about, oh, you know, like the parking was really bad on Lougheed Highway over there. It was terrible. And I always had to go that way because I liked going to the Tim Hortons a block before that. And like, they would just go off and you're like,
yeah,
okay,
nice.
My question was, is there anything we can do to improve?
Yeah.
Like
she said, hey, maybe you should get some breakfast sandwiches for the gym. And, like, slow you down a little bit.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have Timbits as a post-workout meal. Maybe if you come in, I can show you a better way.
Yeah, it was really funny, man. It was super funny, but it taught me a lot about patience because I just didn't have it when I first started, and I still struggle with patience today.
I think a lot of people do. It's tough to wait.
Yeah, well, and it's tough to listen too.
Yeah, listening is I think everyone struggles with listening. Everyone wants to talk about themselves, right? Like that's all anyone wants to do. Like when I meet up with people for talking about development, it's easy. That's another thing back to this. Like it's just easy because people want to talk about what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's so cool to them, right? And I want to hear about it. As long as you have the right questions to ask, like someone will go on for an hour about something when you just want to meet for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, even like look at like what we're doing right now. We've been talking for like probably an hour and a half.
Yeah, I've looked at your other podcasts. They're not as long usually, right? They're
Dude, you've been rambling away, man. I love it.
Yeah, I don't stop. Sorry.
Both of us actually. So I like it, man. I like it. It's actually interesting because when I first started at Nash, I had troubles kind of sparking conversations and just like I just wanted to do all the talking. I thought sales was talking. I thought that's what it was. And one of my bosses gave me a cool kind of phrase, I guess, that reminded me what my purpose was. And he said, look, man, if you're talking, you're selling. But if they're talking, they're buying.
Yeah.
And so all you have to do is to get them to talk about what they need, what their problems are, where they need help, right? And I was like, well, how do I get them to talk? And he said, just ask them about themselves. Do people love talking about themselves?
Yeah, what they're doing. And like, yeah, like you said, like it's true, man. You asked me about traveling and all of a sudden I'm going off for 30 minutes talking about in the outback with the kangaroos. Like it was all fun times. And I love talking about it because it brings me back to like.
Well, and it's like, dude, I can feel the emotion when you speak. Like, it's like, oh, this is something that he actually did and he felt like, and I can feel you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even though it's just through a Zoom call.
That's what I like about public speaking too. Like when people ask you questions and like it's really like they're going through something or like it's someone's parent and they're like, oh my God, my daughter's this, and this. And then you give them an answer and you can see like they're happy about the answer, right? And you can see the look of relief on their face too.
Mm-hmm. Or even I'm sure you get times where they're like, damn, I do know that's the answer and it's going to be tough to implement.
Yeah. I mean, the hardest part about public speaking for mental health is I'm not a doctor, right? I'm not an expert. Like, and people will, like you said, people just ask you things that just don't even make sense in the moment. Mm-hmm. Someone asked me one question about like, if someone's schizophrenic and they didn't tell me, like, are they allowed to live with me? Don't they have to tell me? I was like, what? I have no idea why you even say that. I don't even like I don't even talk about schizophrenia, dude. I have no idea about schizophrenia. I don't bring it up ever.
Yeah.
right? So yeah, a lot of times in just small pieces of advice can really make a difference, I've found.
Yeah, even myself, like I talk about, mental health and self-development, or just like kind of like pushing your life into a happier, better direction. And sometimes like I've even had people message me and they ask me questions where I'm like, dude, I don't know that. Like
Yeah,
that's way above my realm of like
yeah.
expertise. That's
Talk
way
to an
above.
actual expert.
Yeah, I at that point it's like, dude, you need to speak with like probably your
Yeah.
doctor.
A
And
lot of problems with mental health industry is it's so expensive to like see an actual good therapist. Like it's like I know you're really against the whole like privilege and victimhood thing. Like you want to just own yourself, right? But if you're really struggling, it costs $200 an hour to see someone who can fix you. Versus like $50 an hour for someone with a bachelor's degree who's like just getting started, right? It's so many hoops to jump through. To
oh, trust me, man, I know. And that was like kind of, I talk about like the hurdles that I had to jump through or to
yeah,
get help. And
it's brutal.
it is really brutal, man.
It's
And it's not that I don't really like it's not that I don't like talking about like privilege. I think that there's a lot of people that do have privilege. I'm very privileged. I'm very blessed.
yeah,
That
me
being
too.
said, I feel like no matter what, even if you are privileged or you're a victim, if you've been righted in the past or if you've been wronged in the past, I think that no matter what, whatever position you're in, there is external forces that have kind of helped get you there,
Yeah.
whether it's in a good spot or a bad spot.
Oh yeah, of course.
And regardless of where you are, there's always something that you can do that can either put you in a different position or change the way you view your position
Yeah,
or
100%.
help you learn from the position you used to be in.
Yeah, you always gotta, like I said before, you gotta have the point where you want to be and just the steps to get there and knock off the steps one by one, no matter where you are. Right?
Well, and I think it's important to say it like that because I feel like a lot of people kind of share a similar view to me, but it comes across as, why aren't you making your life better? Because
I
you're
know.
choosing not to. You're choosing to be there. Whereas I kind of view it as the perspective of, maybe you didn't choose to be there, but maybe there's something that you can do that you like. There's hope, man. Like there is a light.
Little things, yeah.
Like there's something that you can control here. There's something, even whether it's making your bed in the morning to make yourself feel a little bit better so that maybe you start dressing a little bit better, so maybe you start going to more job interviews so that maybe you can
Yeah.
get a job. Like if that's how
Yeah.
it works, then fine. But like I just
Yeah.
want to let people know that like there is hope, like there is a chance
Yeah.
to get better.
But it starts with little steps, right? If you're super depressed, you can't just get up and go for a freaking 10K jog and go hang out with all your friends, right? The first step's getting out of bed. Maybe
Yeah,
brushing your teeth, having a shower, or
yeah,
even like making something healthy in the morning,
yeah,
right? That's the first step, right? And then once you've done that, like I said, then you can do that the next day and the next day and the next day. Then maybe you'll want to go outside for a little walk.
yeah.
And then, yeah, obviously with depression, you can't just go for a walk. Like you might need medication, severe counseling, like it's a thing in your brain. Got to make sure I state that. Because a lot
Well,
of
yeah,
people, like a big problem is like a lot of older generation people are like, oh, just get over it. Like, no, like you can't just get over it because there's something going on in your brain, and
yeah,
your brain will not get over it unless you fix your brain, which takes
yeah,
a lot of work and maybe some pills.
yeah. Well, it's like what, like a neurological malfunction, right? Like
Yeah.
I believe, I don't know, like
Yeah. Oh,
that's
well, who knows if it's a malfunction or if it's just our society, right? Like anxiety, a big philosophy behind it is that you're trained to be scared of things. There's nothing to be scared of, especially living in Canada. So you're scared about your brain just doesn't know what to do because there's no lions chasing you. There's no chance of the food running out. You have no, like when you live like in a tribe or something. Like these guys up in Vietnam, they got to grow the rice. If they don't grow the rice, man, they're done.
hmm
So like every day they know exactly what they have to do. But here, there's so many options. You got all these people on YouTube like giving you ads like for the e-commerce stuff, like
drop
oh
shipping.
yeah, they're like, oh, you hate your life, your boss or whatever, and it makes you depressed, right? Because that guy's probably renting all his stuff, and he might be depressed too, right? So
Yeah,
everything like with social media, everything's fake, right? There's so many directions you can go, and it's so challenging to choose. That's like a big people with PTSD that come back from the army. Like going to a grocery store is so hard because in the army, when you're out fighting, everything's exactly the same. You know exactly what you have to do. You get up in the morning, you have the same guys, and you go to the exact same patrol, and you know exactly where you're going to get shot at a lot of the time. Or like, you know exactly what's going to happen. Someone's shooting at me, okay, we do this, this, and this, and we take them out. And then you're traumatized from that, and then you come back and there's freaking 60 cereal brands to choose from.
And you're like, dude, I just want to eat. What the hell?
Yeah, I want to eat. Like, because in the army, you just get your pack of food and you eat it. Right?
Yeah.
They give it to you. And it's just all these choices make things really, really difficult for people. That's one of the downfalls of Western society. That's why the suicide rate, they think the suicide rate is so high. It's because people just, it's so, like if you're not driving a Lambo and you're on Instagram, like you feel sad. I bet you do too. Do you ever see those ads and you're like, God, I wish I had a Lambo?
Yeah, not Lambos, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? The ads are going to be tailored for what you like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I see like huge houses, or everyone's kind of got like their when I get rich, I'll buy blank. Yeah. Like for me, it's like kind of like a property to have like my family and like have like a big enough yard for kids, like that kind of stuff.
But so you can't just get rich. That's the problem, right? It's the same thing. It's small steps. You learn how to do something and you have a skill that pays X amount. And okay, if I get this skill on top, I become that much more unique.
Or how could I scale it?
Yeah, how can I scale it?
Yeah.
Right? But you look at those videos and I get the same thing, man. I hate Instagram, man. Like I find myself scrolling on the stories all the time and I see people doing all this stuff and it makes me sad inside for like a second. Then you just shut it off. Okay, like this is just stupid.
Yeah, or like even, I see people that, this is like a super vulnerable thing I'll just be open about. Like I've seen a lot of people recently where like I listen to a lot of podcasts, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I see people just like make an account and then a month later they're at like 600,000 subscribers, like half a mil. They've blown up. And then I'm like, dude, I've been, making, arguably not terrible videos for like a year.
Progressively better, yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, damn, man, like, when am I going to blow up? Like, what? But then you realize it's like, dude, it's not about blowing up. It's about like actually just enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you enjoy what you're doing, maybe something will happen. But think about how many people are podcasting right now. Millions, man.
Oh, yeah.
And one of them's going to blow up. They have to for whatever reason. Right. So just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing good. And hopefully, like as time progresses, you get more and more interesting guests on. Maybe with bigger followings, like I have a following. Like you're not going to get very many people.
I don't care about the following right now. Like I don't care about the people's following. I don't get that. I'm not discriminatory through that. I don't care. You could even have no social media and I'll talk to you.
Yeah, as long as they're interesting.
I like just like genuinely enjoy having conversations with people.
Yeah, so that's all you got to do, man. Have you ever thought about public speaking? I know I tried to talk to you about it before.
Yes, man, I have.
I think there's a huge niche. Well, when COVID's done, that's the problem. We need to get some vaccines going. Whether you're for that or not, we won't talk about it. But we gotta get that under control first. The COVID.
Yeah, we gotta figure out the current situation. I think we can all agree on that.
But I think there's a huge niche for young men like yourself and me to do mental health stuff. Because most people I work with were women, and there are some men that are in it, but. Like you were like the exact example of like people would look at you when you were bodybuilding and be like, damn, I want to be that guy. But you were like depressed, right? Or like going through some miserable, man. But I look at your Instagram and go, holy crap, like I wish I looked like that. Right? But I had no idea what you're actually going through.
Yeah, it was.
And it's really important for like children, especially to hear that from someone like you. You can show them the photo. Look how ripped I was. Like I was absolutely shredded. Look at this. Look at my tan. But this is how I was actually feeling inside. Yeah. So people probably look up to you, but they don't even understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Inside. So I think there's a huge niche for that for young men because like young men and like body dysmorphia, I think is really real. And especially with like Instagram and magazines, like they pump you up. Like you got to take roids and look like this Gymshark guy or whatever. And it creates like a negative situation where working out should be positive.
Yeah, man. And like, back to the body dysmorphia thing, it's so funny because I remember being in that state of mind. I remember being in the place where, like I was a big dude. I'm 5'10" and I was about 235 pounds.
You were huge, man.
Pretty lean. Pretty
What
lean.
I call huge. Maybe in your world it wasn't big, but I thought you were huge.
You know what? I felt tiny, man. And I remember scrolling through the pictures in my phone, trying to pick out the best one where I looked the biggest. And then, you know, you throw it on, you put a filter on it to try and make the shadows look better so you look more defined. And bro, I remember posting these pictures, feeling inside, I felt like a fraud because I was like, I feel like I look better in this picture than I do, you know?
And if you posted a crappy photo, like me looking at it, I'd still be like, oh, he's huge. Like, regardless, like, the only people that would critique you is yourself and other people that are just like you.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you posted any photo, I'd just look at it, oh my God, look at the size of this guy. Look at this. This guy's massive. Right? Oh, man, yeah, I hate that.
Completely different wardrobe now, man.
I never was really into getting huge. I have some issues. I have like this rare back problem where like it's called the syrinx. It's pretty brutal. So if I hurt my back, like my legs stop moving for a bit, which is quite annoying. It's pretty annoying. So
no kidding, man.
I could never lift super heavy, but I just never got into that mindset where I have to get huge. I think a big part of it's because I'm 6'3".
Yeah, it's a lot harder when you're that much taller, man.
Yeah, I just didn't really care as much. Like, I always wish I was ripped, but, like, it's not on my priority. Especially not right now because I'm in 4 classes and working full time, so it's really hard to get down to the gym.
Yeah, I think it was mainly, like, I really enjoyed the feeling of it. I remember I got into it because I wanted to play a starting position on a rugby team, and one of my coaches told me I had to get bigger. And so I did. And
yeah, you did, dude.
And then I fell in love with just like the idea of, you know, I remember the way he said it. He was like, yeah, you're going to have to gain about 20 pounds. And it's like his voice, to me, at least, my perception of it was it sounded like he didn't think I could. And so when I came back bigger and stronger and he was kind of pleased with that, I was like, you know, that made me feel good. And I got addicted to that feeling. And I was like, well, what if I can get bigger? And then it got to the point where people would kind of comment it, like I would just have to like show up somewhere, basically at a restaurant or at a party. Yeah. People would be like, hey, do you work out? You must lift weights. Are you a bodybuilder? And then that was like, hey, this is a cool way I can bypass awkward conversations.
Yeah, because then you're the man. And every guy wants to look like that. Even if you say you don't, or your girlfriend goes, oh, it's okay, sweetie, I like you the way you are. It's like, no. Like everyone secretly wants to look like that, but it's so much work, right? So much work.
Yeah, and it's a lot of sacrifices that I ended up deciding weren't worth it for me.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's at least you figured that out early on before you juice yourself up to like the point where there's no going back, no balls or something.
Yeah, well, I could have been a water balloon with broken joints up, right? So
yeah, you never synthesized.
I'm pretty stoked that my joints are in a position that they are now. Like I feel good. I'm doing a lot more like
cardiovascular is all good.
Yeah, my cardio health is great. I've been going to I've always been, you know, seeing professionals in terms of like checking like my hormones and checking my blood pressure, checking my heart.
Perfect.
So I feel really good, man. I'm doing cardio every single morning now, and I'm doing yoga on the weekends. Like I'm stretching a lot, so I feel really good. Really good.
So back to like the niche about like what you could do for public speaking. Like you're in a really good spot when COVID ends if you want to jump into it. Like we can figure something out if you want. I don't know how I'm going to navigate it, but you've got the photos of you bodybuilding. You're exactly what all those young guys want to look like. You got the tattoos, right? Total bro, and you can just tell them what actually happened. Because my big thing when I'm speaking is I don't tell them. I'm not telling you not to smoke pot or like go get drunk with your friends, right? I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm just telling you what happens. Like this is what happened to people I know. And this is like, I'm not lying. Like this is actually what happened to them. And it's devastating. Right. Yeah. And I feel like people listen more when you pitch it like that instead of being like, just say no. If you smoke weed, your brain's going to melt or whatever. I watched these ads when I was in grade 8 about like, you remember them, right? Those stupid ads.
like the flattened out like girl that was on the couch like this and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, this is what will happen.
You're like, I watched this video and this girl smoked weed and like got schizophrenia or whatever. And it's like, I'm not gonna get schizophrenia. That's so rare. Like no one thinks you're gonna get it, right?
Yeah.
So I hated those ads.
Yeah, man.
They didn't work.
There was a bunch of silly things, but it's like, man, nobody really knows the solution for these things. They're just spitballing.
I think I know the solution. Well, my opinion of the solution is you give people the skills for when they're feeling sad so they don't have to rely on something else to make them feel better or somebody else, right? You want the coping mechanisms early on, right? You wear a seatbelt in your car so when you crash, in an unexpected crash, you don't fly out the window, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a seatbelt in life and there's a crash, you're going to fly out the window, man. Like,
Yeah.
And you're going to be seriously damaged, right? It's
Yeah, there seems to be a happy medium. One of the books I'm reading right now, the author's been speaking about that, how there's a direct correlation between how much adversity someone's faced in the past to how much adversity they can overcome now and how quickly they'll recover from it.
Yeah.
But too little adversity leaves someone struck by adversity. So once they face a struggle, it pretty much stops them dead in their tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas too much adversity can just stop someone dead in their tracks.
Yeah.
And so there seems to be like a happy medium.
Yeah. Well, you see that, man. Like what upsets you wouldn't upset me because it's based on what we faced in the past, right? Or what upsets me wouldn't upset you. That's the people in university that were devastated because they got under 90% on a test. And I'm like, really? But then you got to think about that's the hardest thing that's ever happened to them is doing bad in their mind on a test. So that to them is the worst thing ever because they never faced anything else. So if they get rejected from a job or something, it's just brutal.
Yeah, it's like on a spectrum.
Yes, correct.
Beautiful, man. Well, dang, dude, we've been talking for about an hour 45. I think it's
breakfast.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need to eat again. I did have a snack earlier before we did this, but let's wrap this up. I don't know if you know this, but I'm super lazy and I don't really do my own intros or my own outros. So I'm gonna let you actually wrap this up, tie a little bow on it, and give it to the people. But here's what I'll say is the only requirement for today, the only thing I ask of you for being able to share this conversation with me is you have to end off the conversation with a little positivity for anyone that watches this one.
Perfect. Well, I didn't know that, so I got to think on the spot now, hey?
That's the point, man.
My whole philosophy throughout my life, and I'm in no means where I want to be right now. Like, I'm still pushing really hard to get where I want to be, and then once I'm there, I'm going to want to get somewhere else. It's kind of the way I operate. But just to wrap up everything that I've said, every single thing I talked about from the public speaking to like getting out of getting in trouble and pivoting my life and going traveling is all just, if you have an idea, just do it. But don't think that you're going to be the top guy right away. Don't think that you can just go to Laos and not get anxious if you're trying to get a bus that doesn't show up, right? Start in Australia. Same thing with work. Start with something small. Start with calling people, going for coffee. Then once you get comfortable and you kind of learn what they're doing, then ask them for if they know anyone who's hiring, right? That kind of thing. So build things up small, but never lose your end vision. Always have the end vision and just work your way up. And eventually things that you thought were terrifying and you couldn't do become something you'll do every day. Or you won't even have to do it anymore because someone else will be doing it for you because where you're in your position in your work. So that's just to wrap it up, you know? Like I said, just keep your vision on the end goal. You want to do something, figure out the small steps to get there, and eventually you'll get there. And I did it, you know? And I know people that didn't do it, and they're in a horrible spot like that I graduated with. And when I graduated, I did not think I could do it. I wrote that big spreadsheet I told you about, and it was just, I was like, I'm going to freaking screw this all up. Like, I'm going to end up working at McDonald's. This is unattainable. But I checked the box off one by one, got more confident, and I knew, okay, and I ended up doing it. And I ended up going on the trip that I wanted to go on. I did everything I wanted to do, and I met a great girl along the way. And that's all that matters, right?
That's amazing, man. Blind faith led you to where you are.
Yeah, you just got faith in yourself. And if I don't like the industry I'm in right now, which is not going to happen because I love it, I'll just figure out something else and I'll hit the phones again.
It's beautiful, man. That's a beautiful way to wrap it up. So if you're feeling like you want to try something new, if you're feeling like you've always wanted to try something, Alex and I are kind of agreeing right now. Just jump into it, get your feet in the water, and
Yeah.
enjoy it. Enjoy
Yeah,
the
and
ride.
what I've done was not difficult. It seems like it was talking about it, but it really wasn't. It was just things just kind of flowed one by one. You just check off your goals and make sure you write everything down. And like I said, know where you want to be, and you'll get there. And if you don't get there, you'll get somewhere else, right? Shoot for the stars, land on the moon.
I love it, man. Well, thank
Okay.
you so much, bro. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for everyone that listened.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys have a great week, a great month, and a great year, man. Enjoy your life. Peace out,
Right.
bro.
Peace.